spring game is now an open scrimmage on Friday. What do you want to try to get out of that, especially for the quarterbacks?
Yeah, obviously, things that are out of our control, caused us to shift a little bit, but it doesn't affect our mindset, what we need to accomplish. So it's another opportunity for us to go and grow offensively, and then obviously individually at quarterback, another opportunity to continue to master the offense and show your skills and lead and move the ball with the team. So there's a lot of great opportunities left. I'm excited to watch those guys play on Friday night now.
How do you encapsulate the growth this spring since we first talked?
Well, I think it's been consistent. I think there's probably only been one day of the 13 now that we probably didn't grow and get better. Even within that day, there was a lot of positives, just some ball security issues, that we just can't have. But I think from a start to finish and top to bottom, I think they've done what you would want, what I would want them to do before spring, to get better every day, to make plays and to learn in the offense. So I've been really pleased with where we're at in that regard.
The offensive line, have you kind of maybe seen younger players step up into bigger roles over the course of the spring these last couple of weeks?
Well, they've gotten a lot of reps, and Brandon Henderson jumps out to me as a guy that's been thrust into, having to play two different positions, a lot of reps. We're a little bit thin there just through some injuries and other things that you just deal with in the spring, numbers being low, whatnot. But Brandon Henderson jumps out to me, as far as the young guys that's really taken advantage of that. A lot of the guys have gotten better. You either get better or worse every damn time you go out there. Every single time you go out there, you can't stay the same. And so, just like all of them, there's been some up and down, like all positions with some of the young guys, but there's signs of growth in all of them. But I think Brandon in particular has done a really good job of adapting in a short fashion.
Is there something, expectations with Donovan, having this be his first spring, and what have you seen that has been encouraging for you?
Well, I think he just he's very consistent in his demeanor, which is a great quality at that position. He's very almost stoic in the way he goes about his business, very intentional in the meeting room, the classroom. He's got great relationships with the players on the team, and so continues to do a good job of pushing the ball down the field and being very accurate when he puts the ball down the field. So there's been in perspective, to keep things in perspective, this being his first true spring, I think he's in a really good spot for it being his first spring.
He didn't get many reps, obviously, with the main group last year during the fall because he's fourth guy. But what has that done for him, and what has that done for you, and just seeing what he's got?
Yeah, exactly. I've got a chance to really kind of figure out who he is as a player, and I think that if you watched him practice, I don't know if you would think that it's been his first spring practice. You probably would have thought he was more involved in the fall than what he was. He did a nice job of staying tuned in and learning on his own. I saw him up here a lot. He sat in on my meetings, even leading up to travel squad. He would come even when we were departing, and he wasn't involved in that. He would come and sit in on some of the game plan meetings. Was very intentional about that. So I think that's helped contribute to his growth. But he's done a nice job.
At least formally, it appears the quarterback competition will carry over to fall camp. What are some thoughts on that? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think anytime there's an unknown about, from your opponent's perspective of who the quarterback's going to be, I think the longer you go, that's a positive thing. That's first of all, so that's never a bad thing for your team offensively. And then, every day's a competition. That's the way we approach it. Every day, all I challenge those guys is to do is control what they can control. Right? They can't control when they go, how often they go, who they go with. All they can control is when their number's called. Are they taking advantage of their opportunities? And so we've got an extensive amount of reps with 4 guys this spring, Kirkland being involved in that, and you guys have seen some of that, but it's been a pretty consistent rotation as far as who the repetitions have gone to. It's not as equally distributed as it was at the beginning of the year, but nonetheless, that's the mindset. It's just you got to be prepared to take them when you get them, and from a competition standpoint, that's always good. Whether it lingers, through fall camp up to the first game, whatever that might look like, competition's a good thing.
Do you feel a lot better about Luke Altmaier now than you did a month ago?
Well, yeah, I didn't know what to expect to a large degree. It was, it was just intel and what you see on the film. There was limited film of him playing. Obviously, we went back as far back and watched his high school film and his workout videos at Elite 11 and the things of that nature. to try to gather as much information as we could as who he was as a player, but there's no substitute for actually being there with him, to your point. And so I think I understand Luke and know who he is and what he brings to the table pretty thoroughly at this point through spring.
What are those things? What have you grown to understand about him?
Well, he's very intelligent, extremely intelligent. They told us that, and that's held to be true. Very intelligent, and I'm talking about football intelligent. You know, obviously I think he's functionally intelligent as well, but you know, from a football perspective, that's what I'm more concerned about than any of it. And he's very intelligent. I think he's a very gifted passer. I think he's a really good passer, and he's a really good athlete. And so those are good qualities, you know, for a quarterback to possess.
This is probably the last time we talked to you before the NFL draft. With what you saw from Chase Brown this past season, what does he bring to the table for whatever team drafts him next weekend?
I think just consistency. I mean, obviously, take away all the things that are obvious, the measurables, the run, jump, cut, catch, all that stuff that's kind of a prerequisite to be mentioned in the draft. But just he's so consistent, and I think that's what makes him great. I think he can play in all downs, and he can protect, he can run, and he can catch. And so I think consistency is a big thing for Chase.
Coach, what have you seen up front with the O-line as far as cohesion? Is that something that's improved from day one until now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you've got 13 practices under your belt with pretty much the same guys from start to finish, you know, with some minor shuffling here and there occasionally. But, you know, most of those pieces of the puzzle have been fairly consistent through the first group. And so that's been a positive thing, you know, for those guys to continue to play together, because it's a new mix and match. I think somebody brought it up today, you know, in the TV media, and it may have been Jay, about the battery being replaced, you know, the center, the quarterback, and the running back. And I hadn't really thought about it in that perspective, but the repetition that the center and the quarterback and the back get all kind of feed into that as well. But up front, you know, it starts at the center, the guy that puts his hand on the ball every day and in every play. And I think we've had some consistent work from that group, but gelling, and that'll be a work in progress. But it's been good to be able to have that pretty consistent through 13 practices.
What's your thoughts on getting deeper in the playbook or getting deeper in what you want to do offensively now that you're in year two and you have veterans that have already been through a year of install?
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I think if you were to interview the guys that are returning, I don't know if they would sense any, you know, us going deeper and opening up a new level of, you know, of offensive scheme that's not been opened up. There may be some tweaks, some emphasis on a certain, you know, maybe a certain pattern complement, you know, that we didn't use last year that we're using more this year. So I think we're trying to be very systematic at what we do, and we're trying to get better at what we do offensively. You know, from a coaching standpoint, playing standpoint, like we're very convicted that what we do is good, and it can be good. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean it's the best thing that out there, that we've got the market corner on offense. You guys know that. That'd be foolish to pretend that, and we didn't. Obviously, we didn't perform consistently enough to even think about saying that. You know, but we do believe, and I am convicted in my background, and what we do works, and we've gotten better at what we do, and we just got to keep getting better at the details, because I think we got enough talent around us that can, you know, talent and that's the magic sauce to the offense is the players, you know, mastering what we're doing and then going and performing when it comes crunch time.
How do you feel about the big play capability of the offense at this point? Is that still something you're searching for?
Yeah, I think continually. I mean, that, you know, big plays are a product of execution for the most part. You know, that doesn't mean it's solely on execution. There's obviously some schematic things you can inject to trick a guy, get a guy open. You know, those are just going to happen a handful of times during the game. I mean, there's too good of coaches in this league, and I'm not smart enough to do that as well anyway on a consistent basis. But inevitably, you can find a play, a scheme, you know, a double move here that creates those explosive plays. But most of that happens through the course of execution and being good at what you do and letting your natural abilities take over in the game. And so I really like what I've seen so far from that. Our receivers I think we've been better. We've been more explosive. We put the ball down the field more and more effectively, and that's been positive for us so far through camp.
During your turn, your three top receivers, it seems like it's a group of younger guys back there in a year of development. What have you seen from them? What that year mean for those guys as we step into a
Yeah, I think the year's been huge for the guys, those first three, you know, I mean, like, you could see the growth in those. I know that wasn't your original question, but I see Pat and Isaiah and Casey all playing at a high level, and I think they've been a great example for some of the younger guys. You know, I think Hank's been super, you guys know Hank's like Mr. Steady, and you catch anything around him, it's caught, you know, I mean, he catches the ball, and he understands what we're doing. Kanari's been a really, he's a really explosive player that just gets better and better every single day. Ashton's had his moments. Ashton started to show in flashes of his ability as he's getting more comfortable. Keon Battles had a good spring for us, you know, so I've been really pleased with in particular, the consistency of the top three guys. I'd put Hank in that group as far as being consistent, and then the other guys have had their moments of flashing, which you would expect from a young receiver core, but there's promise there.
You mentioned Chase,
One or
talking
two
about
more for Barry.
Chase,
Over to Aaron.
how those guys behind him performed, and now that you guys are counting on, you know, probably 3 or 4 of them to step up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been well documented that, you know, we don't, coaches always had a history of playing multiple backs, and, you know, last year that kind of got a little hand for multiple reasons, you know. Obviously Chase's production and who he was became such a central focus of who we were. We weren't real healthy there, you know, at times beyond him. So I think, you know, I'm excited to embrace the new identity of the 23 offense, right? So we're not going to be the same as 22, right? We wouldn't have been the same even if ever one of those guys would come back. We were going to be a different flavor, a different twist, and some new ideas. But because we've lost some of that production, and in particular the running back, you know, that we're going to have more people involved there, you know, and they all have different skill sets. And so I'm excited to embrace what we look like 23 with not getting away from our identity, is like wanting to run the football and being physical and being downhill and, you know, putting stress on the defense in that regard. But I am excited about reshaping our identity through the strength of who we are going to be in 23, and the running backs are certainly a big part of that, and I feel very confident in who they are.
What is that identity? Is it more strength in numbers, or?
Yeah, with the running backs, yeah, I think it is. I think it's strength in numbers. I think more, you know, we got some bigger, heavier backs, and Josh and obviously Caden and Jordan, and I think Reggie is, I think he's just like the consummate like utility all around back, can do everything, you know. He can run, and he can be powerful. He protects great, catches the ball great. So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a committee to some degree. I mean, you know, a committee may be a strong word, but there's gonna be more guys involved as long as those guys stay healthy. And I think that's a good thing for us offensively in the running game and just in general.
We're gonna start Aaron.